feet. That's it. It's not that big.
Yeah, that's not that big. When you say it's not a typical RV, are you talking about like a trailer, or are you talking about like an RV bus?
It's a fifth wheel, so it's a towable.
Oh, wow. You got yourself a nice rig.
Yeah. It's 44 feet, and we have all the trappings of home. We have a dishwasher, we have a washer and dryer. I mean, a full residential fridge. So yeah, we're not living in a box. I mean, it is kind of a box, but it's a well appointed box.
But it's also a realization for yourself, even though that it's not a small RV, it's a lot cheaper than buying a home, in a general community here in the United States, because unfortunately we live in a place where real estate is a lottery game. Let's just be honest. That's how it is here in the United States. And it's become so unrealistic and unaffordable that we're at a point it makes more sense to rent. So you have to ask yourself a question, like, if I'm going to invest all of my money, if I have a husband, I've got kids, am I going to spend all of that on a $600,000 house? And then my kid's maybe going to want to go to college, and I might have to help out there. There's so many things you got to think about, especially now with buying a home, that maybe it makes more sense to do what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, homes are expensive, and we're not going to do this forever, probably a couple more years. We're most likely going to land here in Michigan because Rich is, born and raised here, and we just moved my parents here. And I've been looking at home prices, and the thought of buying a home just kind of scares me. And it's like, I don't know if I want to be that rooted. You buy a home, yeah, you can sell it a few years later, but that usually does not make financial sense.
No, because it's either less or possibly overpriced, and then nobody's looking to buy.
Yeah, and you don't know what the market's going to do. So, ideally, it would be great. I could live in this RV for years and years and years, park it somewhere, but because I want to live in Michigan, I can't live here in the winter. So there is a possibility we'll be, we at some point we may spend summers here in Michigan and then winters somewhere where it's warmer, and put off buying a house. We're not sure. We're just going to we're going to know when we know. But the thought of buying a house really does kind of freak me out a little bit. It's like, it's such a commitment. And I don't know if I want to we move once a month to a different place. And I don't know if I'm ready for a commitment that says I'm staying here for years. I'm not sure. I've done that before. And I know 5 years into the house that I bought, I was like, okay, can we move again? I mean, I was bored. And so there's that. And, the whole financial commitment as well. But I'd say if you're young and you haven't made that commitment yet, why not go travel the world, travel the country, or the world? You can do it without an RV, and figure out what you want to do. You don't have any commitments. I mean, once you buy that house, have those kids, you could still do it, but it makes it a lot more complicated.
And more expensive.
And yeah, more expensive. But there are a ton of families raising their kids, living full time in RVs. That's that's been an up and coming segment for a while now in the RV world, and it can be done. But I wish I knew now what I know now. I wish I knew then what I know now. And when I was younger, I would have traveled more and experienced more. But I'm doing it now, so better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. And it's never too late. We all come into different parts of our lives when we're able to do different things. And when you're able to embrace them, at that time, you're like, you know what? I haven't been able to do this for 15. I'm going to do it now. I don't care. I'm doing it now. Let's do it. Life has that way of tickling you sometimes. Or you're like, why can't I do it now? Why do I have to wait 15 years?
You might not be ready. And, that's why we wanted to do it now. We didn't want to wait till we were retired. And then, could we physically do it? Would we want to do it? Because, there's a lot involved in full-time RVing. You're breaking down, you're setting up, you're moving, you're doing a lot of maintenance, a little bit, maybe similar to house maintenance, but even a bit more. You're managing all your resources all the time. So, it's not this carefree, at least for us, it's not this carefree lifestyle, because we work too. It's not like we're chilling out, on outside under the awning every day reading a book, or
Right.
so, it's life just in a little bit different way.
But the thing is, if you look on social media, this is the problem. And this is kind of, I love talking to somebody like you because you're very realistic about your situation and actually honest. When you see these Instagram posts and these little 30-minute clips of these people in van lives and they have their dog and it's like, la, 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 you got Katy Perry playing in the background and it's all happy-go-lucky and they're pulling out their toilet. I don't really feel that's what's going on in real life. In real life, I just hear a person like, pulling up latches. 30 minutes later, they get this thing out and then they can actually go use the bathroom. But like, just the excessive amount of fantasy of like setting up people for unrealistic expectations. Like, this is a real commitment. Like, you don't have a place physically to land home. You got to take care of your sanitation. You got to take care of home maintenance. Make sure coolant pumps are not broken or any lines are cracked or anything like that. These are things that you have to be able to take care of. And it's like, I don't see anybody posting about that. Do you?
Yeah, well, that's a fine line. Like on our YouTube channel, we do more cooking stuff than we do RV stuff, and we do cooking RV combined type stuff. And that's a question Rich and I always have for ourselves: is like, how much reality do we want to post? How compelling is that reality? Do we want to look like we're complaining all the time? Because these things are real, and we don't have a problem with them, but it's like you have to accept these challenges when you full-time RV. Good example is we rolled into Milford, Michigan about 8 weeks ago. We're here for like longer than we're usually here because we moved my parents here, but whatever. And a day later, we have 3 air conditioners, and the one in the front, the bedroom, the fan blade broke. It's like, and so we're looking for a part. And we couldn't find a part anywhere. We called General RV, and they're like, it's out of stock. We can get it for you in 8 weeks. And then we're looking all over Amazon. And so we went 8+ weeks without a front air conditioner, which may not sound like a big deal, but when it's 80, 90 degrees outside and you're in a box and you need some air, it was a bit of a pain in the ass. I mean, did we survive? Did we have a positive attitude about it? Yeah, because that's how we approach life. But yeah, think about it. It's like, yeah, I don't want to be sweating every night I go to bed because I don't have my front air, and you can only get so much air from the other air conditioners coming into the bedroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a pain in the butt. And then on our way here, well, actually, from New Mexico, back up, we went from New Mexico to Colorado, Colorado to here. From New Mexico to Colorado, we had a cracked rim on one of our trailer tires, and we had to limp into Raton to get and then get the spare. And then from Colorado to Michigan, another one of our rims cracked. And we didn't have a spare at that point because we had a cracked rim just like a month before. So we had the limp.
You mean on the tires?
Yeah, the rim on the trailer tires, the rim cracked, and so it won't hold air anymore. And so we had to stop every 30 minutes for 400 something miles to put air in that tire to get here. Now that's not fun. No,
it's not.
But you have to accept that that's going to happen. I mean, we had a near blowout last year on our way to Cincinnati where I had an entire tire delaminate itself, and then we had to buy all brand new tires. $2,000 later, we weren't expecting to do that. So there's a lot of things you have to take into consideration if you're going to do this lifestyle. You definitely have to be able to pivot. You can't be a control freak. Think it's supposed to go this way. Well, it never goes that way. There's always something. And then there's the little things.
Wrong planet, wrong universe, honey. You don't like it? Get into the vortex and go somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. Go buy your house and and even then it's not controlled. Some of the little things you have to think about, it's like in the kitchen, we have lots of cabinets, we have great kitchen, but everything is really deep. It's not wide, it's deep. So almost every time you want to get something out of a cabinet, you have to remove 3 other things. Take those things out, put them on the counter, grab what you want, put those things back. It's those little things that could really annoy people. I find myself only slightly annoyed if I'm in a hurry or something, And then there's the whole sanitation thing, which is really not a big deal if you know what you're doing and you get used to it. But still, it's like you're disposing of your own waste. Most people don't do that. They live in a house. They flush the toilet. It's gone. They don't even know where it
Yeah.
goes.
They
Yeah.
have somebody else take care of their sanitation.
Yeah, because that's what we do. I mean, that's what makes modern life work. Here you flush or actually use the foot pedal on the toilet, and we know exactly where it goes. It goes into a tank underneath our rig, and then ever so often we pull a lever in it. We watch it just drain away into the sewer. It's very exciting.
Extremely, honey. Get the Bud Lights, get the Coors Light,
Yeah,
all of Miller's. Yeah, bro. Make
yeah.
a picnic.
You're dumping the black tank. Let's watch. Yeah, that's exciting.
I love that. And it's also a great way to inspire creativity, because if you're constantly having to be quick wit and clever and being able to figure out things, when you talk about, like, especially cooking, because I've worked in kitchens, it's always simple, like, oh, you cook that, okay, what's the big deal? Oh,
Yeah.
it's not that hard. Like, I watched that 30-second clip of that random guy that has Italian name and now owns cutting board collection and knives, and he made a steak in 30 seconds. Listen, that shit doesn't happen in real life.
No, it does not. Cooking has so many steps. When we do our cooking videos, all the prep that I have, everything is in bowls. But I had to chop all that. I had to measure all that. I had to prep it. I had to figure out what my order was of how I'm cooking. I mean, it's this great, like, you can spend anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours preparing a meal that is demolished in 10 minutes. It's the craziest thing to me. You put all this work into something and then it's gone. I mean, everybody enjoyed it, but it's just like gone. It's like, wait, 2 hours for 10 minutes? That's a lot of investment there, for 10 minutes of joy. But it is fun. But cooking is not as easy as some people think it is. Cooking good food is not that easy.
Don't you wish that, like in Star Trek, they have, I forgot what it's called, where it creates food? Basically,
oh yeah, the replicator. The
replicator. Oh my god! If we had the replicator, honey, all of our problems would be solved. We wouldn't need dealerships. You needed prep. You'd be like, replicate 3 ounces of red bell peppers, diced, quarter inch,
fine diced. Yeah, fine diced.
And there you
that
go.
would be great. That would be, but that takes all the creativity and
it does.
Fun out of it. But if you're in a hurry, it's a great thing. It's like you do that every day, and then once a week, it's like, hey, I'm going to cook old school today. And I'm going to actually use a knife. Yeah, old fashioned cooking. Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, but we do love cooking, so none of that stuff really bothers us, and that's one of the reasons we got the rig that we did. It had a very large kitchen with an island, because we both cook at the same time.
You have an island in your kitchen?
Island. I have an island.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, it allows us to both cook at the same time because we can chase each other around the island. And yeah, it's not as big as our kitchen in the house that we had, but it works just fine, and it's very, very functional. I do love it, and I cook in it all the time. But not all
you have. I can't say this enough. You have a freaking island, okay? Do you know what people would kill to have? Because people don't understand. I grew up in a house with no island, okay? And I don't have an island in my kitchen. It literally saves you so much. You could have 2 people working there. You can have things on one place, and you could be cooking over here. You can have things in the oven. You can have things cleaning in the dishwasher. So exciting.
An island is the greatest. That would be. I don't think I could ever live in another house or whatever it may be without an island. I grew up in a galley, like this really small old galley kitchen, and
like in the 1950s.
Yeah, it was built in the 60s, actually.
Oh my god, really?
A cinder block house in Florida, and very small, nothing special, and it was just a galley kitchen with hardly any counter space. And then I discovered the joy of an island, and so I will never not have an island again. I love islands.
So how did you set up you said you have a YouTube channel. How did you set up your rig, like in regards to being in an RV?
You mean for shooting videos and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's Dave, and I quickly just wanted to jump in and say, if you've been enjoying the podcast and enjoying this episode, if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that'll be so greatly appreciated. Because here's the thing. Someone might read that review and make the choice if they want to listen to the podcast. You get to help grow this podcast with us. How fucking cool is that? Let's jump back to today's episode.
We bought okay, above us right now. I'm in the living room, and to that direction is the kitchen, and we have this big bar that separates the kitchen, and it's up 2 steps, so it's raised. And so when we decided on this rig, we had I saw somewhere either on Facebook or online that you could get this big metal bar that will stretch across the width of whatever. It's like a rigging bar, and so it fit perfectly the width of our rig. And so we put that up there, and we attached the lights, and we attached the camera and shoot at the bar in the kitchen. And so it worked out perfectly, because that was a big concern, considering that the living room is lower than the kitchen, and the tripod can only go up so high. We were like, how in the world are we going to do this, because we got to shoot in the kitchen? But we found this bar, and it was really amazing, so we use it all the time.
So you really get like this, it's not like you're forward facing, it's more of where you're kind of above, but it's not too above, but you can kind of see like what's going on.
Well, it's still forward facing. It's like the bar is at the level, it hangs down, and you angle the camera a little bit, but it's pretty much still forward facing. It allows us to do that.
I have to like get a visual. My apologies, I haven't checked it, but it's really cool, because when you're creating food and you're doing a presentation, especially on YouTube, the environment and the atmosphere that you create is what your audience remembers. They're like, oh yeah, like I know them. Yeah, they have like that thing that's over there, and they're like in an RV. So when you get that set up and it's just that memorable, that's what bring people's in. It's just the kitchen. It's the environment, the atmosphere that's going on.
Yeah, and you see most of the kitchen in the shots, and
let me see.
I don't know if many people, I don't know if you would watch our videos and not know that we live in an RV. You would think we live in an RV, because there's, in the shot right in the back is the huge residential fridge, and most people don't. Nowadays, residential fridges in RVs are much more common, but a lot of people may not realize that, and they're like, oh, it must be a house. It's a residential fridge. It's not an RV fridge. And so I'd be curious to know if people actually know without us telling them if we're in an RV or not. So, but we shoot a lot of our videos outside too, where it's pretty darn obvious we're in an RV.
Well, it's kind of cool, because I love the idea of taking something that you would think is impractical and creating something practical out of it. The love of cooking. The thing is, like, I was raised Middle Eastern, so I'm not stereotyping. The thing about especially Moroccans is it's food and family. Okay. And booze, sometimes booze. So when you have this environment around food constantly, it's really cool when you're able to share that with your audience, and again, like bring them into your kitchen. Bring them into what's behind the dish, because, like you said, I mean, that is what cooking is. It's 4 hours of prepping and sweating and crying because of the onions, and 10 minutes of devouring,
Sometimes less. Depends on the dish.
Depends on the dish, especially if there's bacon in there. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. It's gone in a heartbeat. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's a labor of love. I think cooking is, when you really get into cooking. And we cook all the time, and all of our food is gluten and dairy free, because I am.
Ooh.
And so
I love that.
That facilitates us having to always cook. I make every single dressing that we eat. We don't buy any processed, hardly any. Like chips and salsa is probably the most processed food, that we eat. Well, I mean, there's some stuff we buy, but we cook almost everything. And one of the things that we love doing in the RV is going to places around the country and trying their regional cuisines. And then what happens is, because I can't eat it, like, here's an example. I just dropped the video like right before we started. It's in Michigan, there's a thing called an olive burger. And so my husband's obviously from Michigan. He's like, we got to go check out the olive burger. And so there was an olive burger festival, if you can believe that, whole festival about the olive burger. And so we went to the olive burger festival. He tried everything. I watched him eat it, because I can't eat it. And I did a smell test on a lot of them, because I'm trying to formulate our own olive burger. So then we come back and we make our own olive burger, and we made a video about it. So we did that with Cuban sandwiches in Tampa. We did that with this other Upper Peninsula dish called the Kudigi sausage sandwich, and so we're going to keep doing more of that because it's really, really kind of fun to do. And because we have the ability to do it, to taste something and then kind of know, what the flavors are and create our own. And it doesn't have to be spot on because we're doing it, however we want. But it was fun. So then I got to eat an olive burger, which I wouldn't have had the opportunity to eat because, being gluten and dairy free. So that's always
I'm
fun.
gonna I'm gonna definitely check it out. I just saw it. I was like, oh my god, what is an olive burger? I wanted to touch on something, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. Unfortunately, in this country, we have mass engineered farms. And in recent years, we've learned that they've been using pesticides, really toxic chemicals on barleys, wheats. There's been reports of tampering with dairy products in this country, which all boils down to a lot of Americans developing gluten intolerances, wheat intolerances, dairy intolerance, nut intolerances as well because of how they're growing these plants. Look, I like to be a realistic person, and at the same time I also like to say if you're seeing that people are being affected by this, what does that tell you as an individual?
Stop eating gluten and dairy for sure. I think that that's what happened to me. I don't. It's been 16 years for me, and back when I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, I didn't. I stopped eating gluten, and I felt 1,000 times better. I didn't go down the road to test if I had celiac disease or not because they didn't care at that point because I wasn't going to start eating gluten just to do that. But I live my life like I do. But I'm pretty sure, the way we grow our food is the reason there are so many intolerances. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I've read enough, and it's just kind of an intuitive thing. You know what I mean? I always feel anything that grows from the ground, unless it's poisonous, obviously, it cannot be bad for you. It's not supposed to be bad for you. I mean, you may not like the way it tastes, but it's not supposed to be harmful. And so all these foods that grow from the ground now are turning on us humans. And I don't think it's the food themselves. I think it's what's been put on the food or how it's been manufactured. I can't prove that. It's just intuition that I have. And then my own, I can't eat dairy. I can't eat, any type of wheat or, any type of gluten. The question is why. And so I'm really happy I don't eat those things because, especially the dairy. Oh my God, there's so much in dairy. Such bad things. Now I can tolerate sheep and goat dairy, and so I do eat that periodically. And the good thing about that is a lot of that is from Europe, especially feta. I only get imported. I only eat imported feta, which they're doing a much better job over there with their food than we do over here.
Yeah, I can tell you that for a fact. I mean, I remember I was in the UK to see a friend, and people, it's normal there to drink milk. Like, by the way, this is strange. We're in the US, used to be normal to drink a glass of milk, not anymore.
Mm-mm.
Because to be honest with you, milk in the US, it's disgusting. It really is. It's gross. It tastes like water. But when you go out there, it's like a yellowish color. It's kind of like a yellowish, and it's sweet and it's very thick.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's a thicker, sweeter, and the reason is that in the UK, their dairy products, they can't be on shelves for too long. So they're only allowed to be on shelves, I think, for about 7 days. So because of this, they have to make limited amount of batches, use less amount of harsh chemicals because there's no it gets tossed away. So you see this throughout Europe, but here in the US, it's very normal. Like, oh, 30 days, 2 months, 4 months. I worry about these things. I do. It scares me, especially like this has kind of become the norm even for myself.
yeah, it is scary what is going on with our food, and that part of me is excited to someday get a house. So, even though I talked about not wanting to get a house, because that means I can plant a garden and I can further
Mm.
control the food that I eat. And that's not as possible, obviously, in an RV. And I think it's almost gotten to the point you have to control your food a little bit more. I mean, there's always going to be things you have to buy from the store, but right? It's still difficult to get organic food. Not that organic is the best, because it still has some of its own issues, but it's much better than the non-organic. So at least you're going in the right direction. But most grocery stores, they have organic sections, but they don't have a vast, selection of produce
Well,
in
you're in
those
Michigan.
sections.
I don't know if they probably have this out there. Farmers markets. There's
Yeah,
a
not
they have
everything's
out.
organic though at farmers market. It's better, but it's not certified organic, which is
Well,
a whole different protocol.
well, the thing is that I remember like in New York where I grew up in, they would have actual farmers that would bring their stuff out there, and you'd be able to buy from them. But like the problem that I have, is we're even though you're buying from these people, and again, I know support your local farmers, but they're probably using the same harsh pesticides that the other industrial farm right next to them is using.
Yeah.
So,
And the soil that's right next to the industrial farm. Yeah, so it's to me the
right.
hierarchy is organic, farmers, local farmers, and then local farmers, and then the grocery store, if you can get that. And there's tons of farmers markets out here this summer, and so we've been to quite a few, and we bought. And I bought this Italian parsley a couple weeks ago. That was the best looking Italian parsley I've ever seen.
Oh
I
my
was so
God.
excited. Yeah,
Wow.
and the
It's the
dill. Those two things.
season.
Yeah, and
It's
those
the
two things, they were
season.
so amazing. And yeah, and CSAs are great, but you can't have a CSA unless you really, you're there for somewhere for a long time. So those are the things I do look forward to when we do land someplace and get a house
Do
or
you
whatever
want
we get.
do you want a great recipe for Italian parsley? It's a
Oh
Moroccan
yeah,
recipe. Okay.
yeah.
So there's a my father comes from Casablanca, and in Casablanca we're known for fish. It's a fishing port. And you make fried fish. Now, you can use flour, but you can use different types of flour
Mhm.
because the actual breading is egg.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you basically just take like haddock is a great fish you can use. Herring is another great one. Get fresh fish. You bread it in whatever type, like tapioca flour. You bread it. You put it in egg. You mix in salt, pepper, a little bit of lemon, garlic, and you put in a little bit of Italian cilantro in there. You dip the fish. You put that in. You fry it. Take it out, and then you make a little bit of a sauce. And it's basically just olive oil, cumin. Yeah, olive oil and cumin. And that's it.
Oh,
That's the
that sounds
whole
really
dish.
amazing. That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I may
No
have to make.
gluten.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and it's all simple. I mean,
All simple.
cooking doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, there's sometimes a lot of ingredients, but it's the whole ingredients, simple process. Sometimes those are the best meal. I have been loving on Lebanese food for the last like 6 8 months. We just went and had some at this great restaurant in Ferndale in Michigan. I just love it, and it's simple yet it's somewhat complicated, but it's so delicious. All those flavors: chicken shawarma, hummus, tabbouleh, and oh my god, I'm in love with
Tahini.
all that. Yeah,
I
I
love
just
tahini.
yeah, and
Oh.
the tahini, that their tahini was amazing yesterday, and they make their tabbouleh or tabbouleh without. It's usually made with bulgur, but they make it with quinoa, so it makes it gluten free.
Ooh.
So I can enjoy it, and I'm like, oh, it was so good.
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
loving that.
people don't realize, especially like, because I'm Middle Eastern and, Moroccan food, Libyan, Egyptian, Tunisian, we all have things that we share similar.
Mhm.
But a lot of our dishes are not always just with bread. Flour, bread is something that you bring to a meal. It's not put into the meal unless told to you. I'm being like,
Yeah. No, I get
but
that. Yeah, and that's what's
that's
great
how.
about the Mediterranean flavors, and I can eat them. That's what I love about, all of that food. Pita is the only thing I'm missing. You know what I mean? That it's like, "Here, would you like some pita with this?" But other than that, you don't need the pita. All the flavors are amazing and eat well on their own, and you don't find that in a lot of cuisines. I mean, obviously in American, everything needs to be put on some bread. Or put some breadcrumbs in this or whatever. It's a very bread centric cuisine here, But the Mediterranean cuisine, the Lebanese, and I have to check out some Moroccan cuisine because it sounds like it's going to be very similar to Lebanese. It's really not bread heavy, which I absolutely love, and it's vegetable heavy, and I really, really,
I
really
can
love
send
that.
you I can send you some recipes if you'd like.
Oh, that would be great. My
Yes.
absolute favorite thing I discovered, because I never really ate Lebanese food till a few years ago, and I don't know why, but it just worked out that way, is the garlic sauce, the toom. Oh my god, it's the greatest sauce that ever existed. It is literally, and I make it. I did a video on it. It's literally just garlic and oil and lemon, and you make this fluffy, amazing sauce that has no dairy in it, no gluten, no nothing, and it's good on every single thing I've ever put it on. It's That was like this secret. You guys been holding back with this secret. It's like it's so good.
Well, it's funny because I remember even as a kid when my dad was cooking, it's you. I'll tell. We'll talk about this. Especially when you come to Middle Eastern cooking, you'll realize this. There's spices. There's your vegetables. There's your stews. There's your rice, and there's your meats. So depending on where you are, like especially even if you're in Tunisia, they'll either serve it to you separately. So you put your things together. So you put your
Mhm.
rice with your meat, with your vegetables, and with your spices. And the Here's what Siri. Uh, and because of this kind of practice, like I basically cook without measurement
Mhm.
because the way that I was taught how to cook is you put your finger, you take a spoon, you put your finger, and you taste it, or you
Yep.
mix it around and you see how the bubbles or how it smells. I hate. I'm sorry. I hate using measuring cups. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. I still own them. I can't stand it.
I don't like doing that either. I had to start because we pretty much cook by taste, and we just put things together, and then we always in our video say you got to taste as you go, season as you go, and then when we started doing the videos and actually have the printed the recipes on the website, I had to get everything measured. So when I do like a recipe development, I'll put something together, and then I got to do it again and figure out what all the measurements are for the recipe, because there's in most cooking, there's really no reason to be precise. Baking is precise. Cooking is, savory cooking is not. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Taste it. Oh, I think I needs this. I needs that. And that's why every time we cook the same dish, it's possibly not exactly the same as it was before, because today we felt like we wanted to put more garlic in, or we wanted to put more parsley or whatever. And that's the most fun part of cooking. But everybody needs a recipe to as a guideline to start with. So
Yeah, I did that. It's actually funny you mentioned that. I made kefta, which are meatballs, and I have harissa, Tunisian harissa, in my fridge. And this recipe does not call for harissa, but I put it in there anyway because I wanted a kick. And oh my god, it was so worth it. It was so worth it
yeah.
for me to decide to put it in there. But I totally get that. You sometimes have those moods where I want to make this dish differently. I want to change it up a little bit. And I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think a dish has to taste exactly the same way every single time.
No, and it doesn't have to adhere to whatever the dish is. That's such a crazy thing. Like, I mean, if you're going on Top Chef and you're competing and you're saying, this is whatever dish it is, the name of the dish, coq au vin, it better be exactly what coq au vin is. But if you say, here's a dish inspired by the dish coq au vin, or whatever, that's a little bit different. Some
Like
people
a
get so
naked
hung up.
taco.
What?
Like a naked taco is like one great example of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people get hung up on this. Well, that's not what you said it is, or whatever. I used to watch a ton of cooking shows, and that was always a big thing. And it's like, who cares? I made something, added something else. Is now it's new. I don't know what to call it, but the closest thing is what it's originated as. And people get a little too hung up on that. But all the fusion cooking that you see in society now, especially here in the States, is really amazing. It's like you're taking Asian and you're taking Mexican and you're putting it to, put the best parts together and creating something new. I just read this really amazing article. Was it either the New York Times or the Atlantic about the Texas barbecue scene and how it is changing so much because all these different, cultural flavors are coming into barbecue
Yeah,
and
like Korean
completely.
Tex. Have
Yeah,
you
yeah.
tried Korea? Have you tried Korean Texas barbecue? I haven't.
No,
I heard
I haven't.
it's crazy.
Yeah, but the Mexican Texas barbecue and the Asian Texas barbecue. I mean, it's just I can see all those flavors. Bringing. There was one place they focused on that had green spaghetti, and I can't remember what the sauce was, but it was a Mexican sauce on spaghetti, and I'm like, oh my god, that sounds
Salsa
amazing.
verde?
Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was, but yeah, it's just the idea of taking different things, and putting it with something that you've never seen it before can create new cuisines, and I love that aspect, and that's how food grows and changes, and what's so cool about reading this article is how diverse and multicultural barbecue in Texas is becoming, and it's like if people could just take that same approach and be okay with that throughout the rest of society, we'd all be in good shape. I mean, if you can do it with food, why can't you do it everywhere? I mean, it's like, you came here from one country and you came here from another and I've been here. Let's put everything together and see what we come up with and live in harmony. Who cares where you came from or what your culture is? We all live together. Let's be happy.
I think that people forget the sense of community, and being able to kind of come home to something. Here's the thing: the middle class doesn't exist anymore in this country. It hasn't since the early 90s. And I wasn't alive to see it, and a lot of people today haven't been alive to see it. But it's not just about mom and pop shops. It's about, an opportunity of people literally being able to drive or even walking down a street, being like, hey, there's a cool barbecue place there. We should go there. And they're like, hey, there's a cool shop. Oh my God, they have books there. Oh my God, there's a video game store. And just that sense of, you found your place, you found your community. And I don't I don't really feel that way anymore.
There's a few places in the country that are somewhat like that, and I think that there's too many. As we grew, there's too many of us, and we had to spread out and spread out and spread out, and we all decided we needed more space and more space, and we did lose. I would say the 70s and 80s and even 90s were the community killing decades, because prior to that, community was a big thing, and I think so much went on in the country. I can see how it sort of might have gone in that direction, the reason for that, but yeah, community is not as easy to find. People are a lot more singular and independent and keep to themselves, and I think social media has a lot to do with that too. Instead of bringing, we can talk to anybody wherever they are in the world, and yet we don't talk to our neighbor. And it's like, well, wait a minute, wasn't this supposed to open everything us up to us and make us more of a one big community? And I think the local communities have suffered, and I know that's one of the things RVing that is sometimes lacking is community, because we're always in every month we're in somewhere different. We don't put down obviously don't put down roots, and so the RV community itself of other full timers and people out here, we try to create a community so we have that for us, because when you're moving around all the time, it's really hard to have a community, but we have seen some small.
All about the artist. That is the whole purpose of this podcast, period. And you have a really valuable tool. You can share this with artists, people that are creative, someone that can enjoy this podcast and really enjoy the experience of Lost in the Groove. So, with that, let's jump back to today's episode, shall we?
Cities around the country that are doing community well. The one thing I will say about some of these that I saw, I don't know how well they do with diversity. Community is one thing, but community that's inclusive is a totally different thing. And I think that
It's a different type. It's a very different type of inclusive. It's where you're able to accept people for being people, no
right.
matter who they are, and remembering that we're not in here for politics. We're in here so we can do something that we're proud of together.
Mm-hmm. and live a life we can be proud of and help as many people as we can, and
Yes.
and leave whatever we can behind, and leave whatever good we can behind. And yeah, the inclusive community, I think, is happening more and more as the population becomes more diverse, and the most diverse are the younger population, and they're more open-minded, because I don't know what happens to humans. It's like they're very open minded. Most of them are when they're young. And then as they get older, they become these closed minded, scared people, which Rich and I are both like, we are never going to become that. We're going to, no matter what happens, we hope. And
Hopefully not. I
yeah,
really pray.
yeah, but I see that. And, it's interesting in the RV community, there's a lot of displays of politics that not, I won't say a lot, there's many. There's RVers that we see, they come out for a weekend camping and they've got to put their political signs up. And I do not understand that. You're here for, 3 or 4 days. Why do I care where your politics are? What are you trying to do here? This is supposed to be a community where we're all here doing the same thing. We're all
There's a time
camping.
and a place. I think we both can remember this. Remember that term, a time and a place? Something that we've forgotten. It's not trying to be rude, but we're trying to be respectful,
Mhm,
because there's a place to have those conversations. There's a place to eat. That's why we have
mhm.
kitchens. I'm sorry. That's what we have dining rooms. My
Yeah.
apologies. I'm stuck in 2023. We have kitchens so that we are able to cook food. We have bathrooms so we're able to relieve ourselves. We have bedrooms so we're able to sleep. Why do we have such a hard time understanding that there's a time and a place for things when we literally live in our lives where there is a time and a place to be in certain places?
I know, but so politics has changed now. It's everywhere. You got to wear it on your sleeve. You got to put a bumper sticker on. You got to have a flag everywhere, and to let people know who you are and what you believe in. There's a time and a place. Yeah, right before an election, you put a sign on your front lawn, or you put a bumper sticker on your car, and then after the election is over, it all comes down. That's what we've always done. Now it doesn't come down. It is just constant, and I think it's a way. I know I've seen it enough in the RV community. I always ask myself when I see it, it's like, well, what's the point here? Are you trying to scare people away, or attract only the people that you want to talk to, that are of like-mindedness? And to me, it's like, I get that. I understand that need. But at the same time, if you don't talk to other people, you're never going to learn. There's never going to be harmony if everybody stays in their little groups, their protected, comfortable groups. We're never going to be a community again, and that's the reason we're not as much of a community now, because nobody wants to cross whatever line they have. That's like, I can't talk to them. They're from a red state. They're from a blue state. They're a Trump supporter. They're a Biden supporter. They're, oh my God, they believe in free speech, or whatever, whatever the thing is. And that's why we're so polarized now. Not that it was any better way back. I mean, I've been around for a while, but the biggest difference is both sides would talk to each other, and you could find some consensus. Now, I don't think there's any, very hard to find consensus in the world.
There's, I've said this so many times. John Lennon said this over 47 years ago. War is over if you want it.
Exactly. John
If you,
Lennon was a
if
visionary.
if you want it.
Yeah, what's the benefit? What's the benefit of war? There's so much benefit of war. We don't benefit. You and I do not benefit, but there's many people in the higher echelons of the world in power that benefit financially. They benefit from
Then
a power
why?
base.
So then I ask myself this question to those people that feel they comfortable that they have to put up these signs in a temporary place. Why do you need to feed off of this when you already have your own problems? They're not here to help you.
Yeah,
You
and
you
and
have
you
to be you have to be there to take care of yourself. So why? Just
I
why?
know that's my big question too. Is why it's like you're here with your family, you're enjoying the weekend. Why do you have to bring politics into it? And I'm a very passionate person when it comes to what I believe in politics, but I'm never going to be that person that's going to hit somebody up, aside the face with it. I grew up in the era where what was the saying? It's like you never talk about around the table is politics or religion. It was that thing that came out of I don't know the 40s
Wait
or
a minute.
50s.
Wait a minute. Are you an early millennial?
No, I'm an Xer. I'm a Gen X, and
Wait,
so
what? You
yeah,
don't look it. Okay.
I'm early Gen X. 66 is, I think Gen X is 65 and on, and I'm like
Wait, wait,
66,
wait, wait, wait. You were born in
1966.
you were born
Yeah,
in 66?
mm-hmm. I
Damn.
was.
You do not.
Well,
I
thank
was
you for
like
that. You're my
I
new
was
best
like
friend.
maybe 80. I was like 84, maybe
No,
83.
no, 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 no. I've been around. I've seen a lot of stuff. And yeah, back then when we were growing up, those are things you never talked about. It was like, don't talk about religion, don't talk about sex, and don't talk about
My
politics at the dinner
mom
table.
my mom was born in 59, so my mom is a boomer. Oh my, we love him. We do. We
Yeah,
love him.
yeah, we do. Hey, boomer. And I, but I don't know if we need to adhere to that exactly. If you're in the right situation, you can talk about it. But it's the same right place, right time. There's a place and time for everything, and
Yeah.
we used to agree as a society when that place and time was, and I think that has all changed, and everybody is.
I'll tell you this. One thing I have noticed, especially even with my mom, is her wanting to understand like things that are going on now. And I've seen this with a lot of boomers. Like, people like to give shit on Gen X, silent generation, the boomers. The thing is, not all of them are shitty people. A lot of them were the ones who were fighting against the Vietnam War. They were fighting against it. They were the ones that were hippies and they were fucked in 74. And they had to rebuild their entire lives, restart everything all over. A lot of them went to politics and became horrible people that are now our president. But anyway, these people had their own little voices. They had their own little stories. And I don't like to like rationalize and justify. I like to hear what a person has to say. And they went through a lot. I can't imagine any child that had to go through what they went through in the 1960s. That's
It was a lot.
assassinations. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Well, yeah, I think going through the '60s and then going through the '70s. The '70s were tumultuous in their own ways, and then the '80s were just crazy, just a
Yes.
complete turnaround. It's like, okay, we're just gonna do everything and anything, and the hell with everybody, and money is the only thing that matters. And yeah, the '80s were a very interesting time. But we also that whole generation also went through the Cold War, which I think a lot of people forget. But now the younger generation is going through the school shootings, the having the drills at school, and so there's always it's always something different. And we had, when it was the Cold War, we had the drills. If if there's a nuclear bomb or we get attacked, what do? We had the drills to get under our desk, and I'm like, if it's a nuclear attack, this desk is not going to help me, but
No.
I'm going to do what you tell me to do. And so every generation seems to have these overarching things that scare the hell out of us, and it's like, I just want to know when is this, as a race, not even a society, we're gonna decide that we don't want to do this anymore. I don't think I am going to be alive for that. I don't know if my son will be alive for that. I don't know who's going to be alive if that ever happens. But I mean, to me, it just seems so easy. Just stop fighting. Just, can't we all just get along? That's just all. I wish it was that simple, but I
it,
mean,
it
it's
it
like,
all takes the ideology of I can respect you, but I don't have to agree with you.
right. But yes, you don't have to agree, and that's the way things used to be. And it depends on the topic too. If you're fighting really really hard to take somebody else's rights away, I don't know if I can respect you, but I don't have to agree with you, applies in that situation. That's up for discussion, I would think, because if you're, it's one thing that you can believe something, but if you're fighting to, to do something to another person, which taking their rights away is, doing something to another human, I think that's a different story. But for the most part, yeah, back in the, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, at least by way of politics, people didn't agree all the time, and they still made deals. They signed bills. Legislation passed. They compromised, and then I think the beginning of the end, and I lived through this, is when cable TV came out in the late 70s, early 80s, and CNN came. I think that, when was that, like 80, 81? And then there was this show which was called Crossfire, where they took a liberal and a conservative. This is the first time this had ever happened. Nobody had ever seen this. And then they argued these points. I firmly believe that was the beginning of the polarization, because it was like they never compromised, those two. And it was always my way or my way, and I think that just kind of ballooned out to us, like, oh, this is what politics are now. One person's on one
People
side, one's on the other. Yeah.
people forget that you can be liberal and conservative.
Yeah, there's different things that you're conservative. You can be conservative. You can be a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. You can be a social liberal and a fiscal conservative. Yeah, you could have a little bit here and there too.
But people don't realize.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that. People are like, "Well, I'm on that side, and you're on that side," and I'm like, "Why do we have to be on any side?
Well,
We live
because
in
we
this."
have two political parties. That's why. That's part of the problem. It's like, you got
Yeah,
to pick, you got to choose, because there's no independent that's getting anywhere. And maybe in a school board election, you might have some independents that make it or something. But on major national elections, you got to make two choices. And anytime there's been an independent, it hasn't worked out well for them. And I think that's part of the problem. It comes from the top down. It's like, if we were allowed to, have more candidates that reflected the various views and needs, wants, and desires of a very diverse America, I think you'd have a completely different country. But until the two-party system is abolished or changed, I fear that we're going to be heading down this path for a very, very long time.
yeah, and honestly, I feel real change really just starts all the way at the bottom. It starts on the streets and people speaking up and deciding what they want for their communities. The thing is, let's be real, government doesn't give a shit about anybody. They don't
No.
care. So we're here, we have families, we have our communities, and you, as a person that travels, and you get to experience all of these different places all over, we have to be there for ourselves, because remember, we make up this country. We are the ones that work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. We are the ones that are running this country. So I think that is where the change is. It's with us, not with them.
Well, theoretically, we have the power, because if, collectively, the majority of the, inhabitants of the United States decided we've had enough and we're not going to take it anymore, we have the power for change. But that would be an extraordinary thing to happen. But it can happen in small levels, in communities, and communities change, and then eventually it works its way up. I mean, that's the only way I think we're going to see change. There's too much money and power entrenched, in politics at higher levels. I don't see that ever changing, because there's no incentive for them to change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just feel that, especially like with the work that you're doing, with all of the evil corporate shit that Meta and YouTube does, you're able to have somebody like yourself being able to create a content that people can not only take their time and be educated, they can learn something really cool. We have these cool ideas of like, oh, let's take a vacation. Well, maybe this person can inspire you to come out to Michigan, and try out something cool, something you never tried before, and probably will cost you $1,000 less going to Europe. I'll be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we love sharing our adventures because yeah, somebody may look at that and go, "Oh my God, I want to go there." It's like I got to go to Michigan and try the olive burger because I love olives and I've never seen, whatever. And or we went when we were outside of Hilton Head last year. We went to this kazoo factory, which I never knew existed, where
Ooh,
they make
we
kazoos, and it was so much fun. And we try to do kind of stranger stuff like that because we're a little strange in that way. But yeah, it's
love
great to
that.
share. And if it inspires somebody, great. And that's why we try with all of our videos to be, we don't focus on the downside of RV life because we want to be more positive, even though it's not downside. It's just the realities. I guess
Reality.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, a better way to look at it is the reality. It's like, yeah, it's all fun here, but you got to be okay with this too.
Right.
So but it's really not that bad. It's just like life. It would be like somebody saying, don't buy a house. You never see anybody putting any videos out there. It's like, what do you have to do to maintain a house? It just kind of goes with the territory, which I guess that's how we view it with the RV. It just goes with the territory. But
It's living the life, living the long road life,
yep,
constantly on the road. But it also begs the question of we are we are strong as people. We can be tactical, we can be quick and smart and clever and be able to figure things out. We're not stupid. I don't I think that if you put the time and effort to learn, like, this didn't take me overnight to do. It didn't take you overnight to do to get an RV and make a cooking channel and a YouTube show. You got to be able to start somewhere. Figure out where you want to start.
yes. And you only have one life, so if there's something you want to do, don't wait. Just do it. It makes no sense to wait because you don't. Tomorrow is not promised. You just never know. And just there's something you're dying to do, go out and do it. If you want to travel, travel. If you want to RV, RV. Don't wait because when you're looking back, sometimes it's not good. It's like why did I wait so long? But we every time we tell somebody that we were full-time RVers, almost universally the reaction is, oh my God, that's so cool. And I'd say at least 75 to 80% of the time it's like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. And so if there's any
That's a good number. I mean, it's not in the low 60s, it's in the upper
no,
70s.
it's very high. And anytime I hear that, it's like, just do it. Don't wait, make it happen, make the decision because, it may be too late when you actually, it's that whole thing about, just if you keep planning and planning and planning, it's never going to happen. There's no perfect time to do anything. You've just got to make that decision that says, come hell or high water, I'm going to do this and I'm going to deal with everything that comes along, whether it's something that's going to set me back or push me forward. But if you have that goal, then you'll just get there eventually.
Yeah. I I I have to share this on it's not an RV story, but I recently I changed my cars. So I had a RAV4 since the pandemic. I got a really good deal on it. And I mean, it was a nice car. It did what it had to, A to B. I drove from New York to Florida, had a lot of great fun. And I traded it in for a 2011 Ford Mustang convertible.
GT?
No,
Oh,
but it's
okay.
got a V6 and honey makes 310 horsepower with I think like
Okay, that's not too bad.
416 4-pound of torque. Yeah, and at the time, like, I thought I was like, this is something that I really wanted to do, and it didn't seem really practical. I've owned it now for like about 3 weeks, so this is like really recent, and I kind of like realized, you know what, life is short, and this is a lot more fun than a RAV4,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm able to have more energy in a way. Like, even though I work a 9 to 5, I'm able to enjoy the ride there more comfortably. Be
And
able
have
to
more fun.
meditate. Yeah, exactly. Um, I think it's sometimes so hard for us to allow ourselves to have a pleasure, like a passion. But I'm being practical over here. I'm not saying go buy, a $300 million yacht. No, 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 no.
No, but it's still a hard decision. But between my
Yes.
husband and I, we have had, what is it, nine? Mustang GTs in our lives. Matter of
Oh my
fact, our last
God.
one, we had a 2015 anniversary edition Mustang GT. Her name was Dorothy, and we traded her in for the F350 dually that we now have to pull our house. It was very sad, but we had her for 5 years. And I can tell you, as someone who's driven Mustangs almost my whole life, I always felt guilty about it. On some level, it was like, I'm having too much fun. This isn't practical. But I look back now and it's like, who cares? Do what makes you
They're
happy
amazing
because,
cars. They're
oh, they
you
are
know,
so good.
I the first of all the really cool thing about Mustangs is they're really proud of being built here in the United States. Like on the engine, it'll say the person that built it. It'll have like stickers on it said proudly assembled. It's I hate to say this, but like I feel so proud as an American driving that car because it's built here. It's something that we as Americans can be proud of. And in a way, it's something that like Ford kind of understood of we can create something fun for you, but still be practical and safe for you to drive.
That's exactly what a Mustang is. It's very iconic. I believe the 2024 Mustang is going to be the last combustion engine, and then they will be electric after that, I believe. But the Mach
No.
E, which is it's a Mustang, it's a Mustang Mach E. It is an all electric SUV, and they're super cool. I've been looking at those. So when we do land, we're going to need a vehicle, and I really want to do electric. But if the Mustang is electric, I may have to go back to. I've loved Mustangs since I was 10 years old, and it's such a cool car. And
You
everyone
grew
I've
up
owned
in
has
the you grew up in an awesome I mean on like the era of like when it was like, the Mustang and then it turned into
well, the Camaro, the Trans Am,
yeah,
the
oh,
Challenger, the Charger. I mean, cars were so big in the
Roadrunner.
70s. Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
yeah.
The,
Flybird,
and yeah, and even the what was it? The Monte Carlo Grand National, which it's
oof,
cut up sometime.
regional. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was even a cool car. Yeah, cars were always big for me, but yeah, I don't feel guilty anymore if I about my car choices. Everybody around you wants to tell you that they're not practical. Mustang is kind of practical because I mean it drives. It's
Right on
not like
fuel. It's a
yeah, it's
2011
not like
and
a
it's a
Corvette.
V6.
Yeah, and they're not horrifyingly expensive. I mean, when
No.
you get up into the GTs and the Cobras, and the Shelbys and stuff, that gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I would never pay that much money for that. But it's just a great car, and I can't say enough good things about a Ford Mustang. So
No, it's also about being able to just being real with yourself and understanding like this is what I need right now. Like you needed that Ford pickup truck.
oh yeah, to pull the house, yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it's like I don't think a Mustang can pull that much weight as much as we love Dorothy.
And it can't pull anything. Let's be clear. You're never putting a hitch on a Mustang, or if you do, good luck with that. So
Oh god. I seriously I love the work that you're doing. I love the story and just kind of the practicality, kind of just being straightforward and like, look, RV life can be fun. 75? You said 75 or 80? Are we 75? Sticking with 75%?
of the time, well, RV life is
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's 75, 80% of the time it's good, and then
Okay.
there's 20% of the time it's not. That's a good.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're going to keep it like that. Let me ask you this. If anybody wants to find you, where can they find you on your socials, like your YouTube channel and stuff like that?
Almost everything is at GF as Explorers, but that would be Good Food Explorers or GF. Just because it's GF Explorers. That's our YouTube, our Instagram, everything, and our website as well is GFexplorers.com.
Awesome. Well, be sure to check it out because there's an Olive Burgers episode that's out.
Oh yeah, I gotta check out the Olive Burger.
Yes, you gotta check that out. And if you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Lost in the Groove Pod. So with that, stay groovy, my friends. We'll catch you on the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye.